In this video, I wanted to talk about the different shadows that get projected from a cone in different perspectives, and also like when sunlight is hitting the cone differently. So to start off, I am going to draw, like, consider that, or I'll do it straight. Consider this the eye level. So we're going to be like drawing below the eye level. And to start off, I'm going to draw a cone that is straight up. I'm going to try that one more time. Okay, so we have our cone. So just to tell you, a lot of these examples, like, they come from the book Perspective Made Easy by Ernest Norling, and I wanted to kind of elaborate. So with a cone, it's not as simple as a box. So let's say the light source is like coming from this way. A little sun. I'll put the title up a little higher. The sun, the light source is coming from this way in this instance here. So I've seen it handled different ways, and kind of what you do initially. Oh, I'll put the shadows on a new layer. You kind of just go down, you put a line, and you have to kind of commit, because like the front part of it is being illuminated by the light, but there's like a back end to this cone that it's like where the shadow is being casted. The other thing that's important is that, well, I talked about when you have a box, you could use this method of casting out triangles to try to make it, or to try to explain how the shadow will go. I want to say another thing I learned was that different times of day, your shadow may be equal to the height of the object, or it could be shorter. It's really based upon how the light source is hitting you. But let's just say we're kind of close to it, or it's not close to it, but it's just like normal, and it's the height of the cone. So it's hitting it like right here. But it's really bizarre, because how do I put it? When I looked at the actual example, it kind of makes it seem as if doing this method kind of falls through, because it kind of, like, from my logic, I would think that this whole entire area would be covered by the cone, but because it's so thin, you're having like a much thinner shadow. So like there is going to be a point out here, but apparently it doesn't really cast the way I thought it would. Or it should be like much thinner, because it's not a triangle. You're having like this curvature to it, so it seems like it's a bit more abrupt, because well, one, it's not a perfect triangle, so you kind of get just a thinner cone. And even with how I did it here, I think it's a bit too large. So I'm going to try that one more time and kind of just rely on the bottom of the ellipse. I drew through my form here to show like exactly where it would be coming from when you're doing that. Because like it seems like when you're dealing with objects that have a lot of curvature to them, there's a lot of like these weird rolls for trying to determine what the shadow is. It like projects it in a weird way, unlike how you think it would work if it would be like a box. Like a box gives a really simplified shadow, and it appears that it's not as simple when you deal with these odd curved surfaces. Because there's also like a tapering. It's like the further out you go, it's kind of like tapering more. And it's kind of a bit more, well, there's some curvature to it, but it's just thicker as you go closer to the bottom. So that's just one way the example in the book did it. Another example was, I'll draw it, I'm going to rename this layer cones. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a cone like lying on its side. I probably should do that first or something like that. Maybe like that. And just another tip that I can't stress enough, whenever you are drawing something that's a bit weird, particularly organic things, look at reference for observing the shadow forms. It's just very difficult to determine it any other way. So in this case, what they did for the shadow, I don't really need to try through it again. So they dropped the triangle at like the base here. And like, you know, I only went this far. Like, I only went that far. You could have gone further. It all depends on the time of day. Like I said, look at reference, or even better if you have a sundial, if you have a garden with a sundial. But so we have our triangle thing here, and we're going to put it here and here to kind of show how that shadow is going to be hitting everything. The other interesting thing here, like I said, because of the curvature of the cone, it kind of has this rounding effect. Like as you go and try to explain the shadow, you have to consider the curvature of the cone. I just determined it arbitrarily based on the example in the book. And the shadow would kind of fall like that. So yeah, it, like the the shadow initially with like how you're doing it, you are using the same triangle, but it's kind of like you have to modify it to fit the curvature of the given object. So it's a much different approach. Alrighty. Now for another example. So another example they showed was a cone kind of like upside down. So I'll start off by drawing a line. Actually, I probably should draw it. Well, I'm going to be changing the light source in this one, so maybe I'll just do it here. And just to say the light source is going to be like here, coming down directly overhead. Okay. In this event, we could, well, actually, the interesting thing about this, so I'm going to show you how, like, it is made of two triangles. But it also doesn't really matter because you have this curvature from the, I didn't do it perfectly. So I'm going to drop 2 lines real quick. The important thing I want to say is that you can still use triangles to figure it out. But when you have something like this, you have like the ellipse on top directly overhead. So you would draw like 2 ellipses and you draw through your form as well. And basically it just makes an ellipse. So it's actually, I mean, pretty much the way the shadow would project in this instance, it would be like a cylinder. I think that's a good way to think about it. So let me show you. Yeah, it would kind of be like this, if that makes sense. It's a very simple one that I feel like it's just not evident, like, why even use the triangles in this instance. Probably if you know it, you wouldn't have to, but I just wanted to show that, like, you can still use those triangles to try to find it, even though it's not as apparent. Okay, so I guess I'll do another one. If we were gonna like reuse this light source again, there will be instances when you like have a light source and if it's like directly overhead, you won't, like, if it's lit from all sides, then you will not have any shadow whatsoever. So you do have instances like that. I feel like more often than not, they're kind of rare. Either that or it's like artificial lighting. I want to say if you ever have lighting that like lacks a shadow, it doesn't look real, because I feel like you're just always going to see shadows of some type. I want to say I saw a coworker of mine, they did a marketing photo shoot of various objects, and after they were done with it, I saw the images, and it was like the way they used a light source. I want to say there were like no shadows illuminated. It was kind of like an Instagram style, like something you would see on Instagram. And like originally, I thought they were all 3D models. It looked like a fake Blender environment. I was really impressed that it was real, but it's really interesting what you can do with light. Like, it just didn't look real to me. And mention in the comments if you see stuff like that, that like, how is this real? It looks like a it looks like a fake 3D model. It's really cool that people can pull that off. But you know, it's kind of like in certain commercials, they'll use tricks for selling stuff, and the actual product looks nothing like that. Like, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, but I think in a lot of commercials for cereal, they'll use like glue, and they'll just like speed up the flow of it. So like, it's not actual milk they're using in it; they're using glue to try to help sell their thing. Yeah, it's weird stuff like that. So I drew this. I want to assume light source is coming from that away. And it's pretty much identical to the one we did here. But I would say, you know, follows the curvature again of it. Then you, well, I guess the difference in this example compared to that other one is kind of how it sits. So you can kind of project a shadow going out like that, or it could even be a little further. But I'll show you how it comes in, kind of like that. You know what? Let me do that one more time. here, and we're going to go to here to here. And there we have our shadow shape for that. Should also be here. So yeah, the book Perspective Made Easy. It really has me thinking in a lot of different ways. I really like it. I have to say, I read it one time really fast, and I feel like I just didn't absorb it until I went around and I took some time to kind of work my way through all the examples. I hope these videos aren't annoying. I kind of made them to help solidify a lot of the knowledge in the books. I think sometimes recording myself doing this stuff kind of helps teach me a little as well. I hope you could learn something from it as well, so that would be like double the cool benefit if it does. But yeah, it's really interesting. Playing with shadows, it always seems like it seems a bit like a puzzle, and it's kind of fun. It's not very stressful. I'm not saying it's supposed to be stressful in any way, but I mean, it has me thinking. It's not like I'm not thinking. But it's definitely different. So yeah, if you have a question, please ask in the comments. The other thing I wanted to mention, in a lot of the examples, they tend to kind of show like a thatching effect, to kind of show like there are different degrees of shadows with how things are projected. Like when I drew that shadow, it kind of hides the form. Maybe that's not a good thing that I'm doing. I probably shouldn't be hiding the form as much as I am, because I don't mean to obscure it. Because there are differing degrees of shadows when it comes to a lot of these things. So that is something to be aware of. And probably something else I really need to learn as I go. But yeah, if you have a question, please ask in the comments. If you like the video, please like it. And if you like my channel, please subscribe. Thank you very much for listening to me blab throughout this video. Bye.